Hey everyone, Happy Dude here. Now I have an older system. It's a X570 motherboard from Gigabyte. So that means I still have the old AM4 socket. So I had a 3700X CPU with 8 cores. I recently upgraded that to a 5950X with 16 cores. I have a separate video for that. So you can see the performance between the two, and I still use old DDR4 memory. I have 32 gigabytes at a clock speed of 3600. But the biggest upgrade that you can do is simply buying a new graphics card, especially if you use a lot of ray tracing, pad tracing. That's mostly done by the GPU, and if you change your resolution to 4K, so if you play on your TV or a newer monitor, then all the work is done. Almost all the work is done by the GPU. The CPU does only a little bit at that resolution. So that's the best upgrade that you can do. And I switched my 1080 Ti with a 9070 XT. So that's a very big upgrade, and I am very happy with the performance. Especially if you compare it with Nvidia, then for half the money you get almost the performance of a 5080. So I'm not complaining here. So that's the best upgrade that you can do. I will show you some benchmarks so you can decide for yourself. Anyway, it will be a lot better than the Steam machine, I can tell you that. And it's way cheaper also. Okay, let me show you the settings for the game. So it's in 4K. The quality is on high for everything except for the advanced. That's for the movie effects like motion blur, film grain. That's always off. I hate all that shit. Ray tracing is off right now. So let's see what the performance is. Okay, looks like we get about 60 FPS. And also take a look at the light effects for when we turn ray tracing on. Now I do have to say that this game has a lot of problems with FPS spikes and drops because it's a very bad PS5 port and also not very well optimized. And it's even worse when we turn ray tracing on. So let's do that. Okay, let's save the settings. Yes. And now take a look at the FPS. Bam! 30 FPS. But everything has to load in. So it rises up to 40. But it's very laggy. A lot of micro stutters. And look at the light effects. It's exactly the same. And you don't have a lot of surfaces with reflections like glass or water. That's not present in the game, so there's really no point to activate ray tracing in this game. It looks exactly the same, but the performance takes a huge hit in this game. Now, if for some reason you do want to turn ray tracing on, you will have to use FSR3 upscaling and also FrameGen to make it playable. And then you will get over 100 FPS, as you can see. And weirdly enough, the game plays even better. So the lag is gone, the micro stutters are gone, and the image quality is exactly the same. I can't see any difference. Right. Now let's try Control. This is one of the first games that really had a lot of ray tracing effects in it. Now for some reason OBS does not want to capture the FPS data that I have. Yeah, I've tried it 2 times and it doesn't work, and it's also zoomed in, as you can see. Anyway, it's in native 4K, no upscaling, no frame gen, and ray tracing is off, and all the graphics settings are on high. And you can go up to ultra and even max, but that's a bit too much for this card. So we are getting about 60 FPS, so it's very playable with this card. I even played the game again because it was such a long time ago, and I've forgotten how fun this game was. Now, I want you guys to focus on the little puddle there. We have some blurry reflection, but from certain angles it just disappears. Now, watch what happens if we turn ray tracing on. I'm going to put it on high, then everything is activated because there's a lot of ray tracing settings in this game. Now, look at that. A perfect clear image, just like in real life. And on the floor, it gets more blurry. So the puddle is sharp and you can see it from every angle. That's just amazing. But that's not everything. You also have it on glass. And there's a lot of glass in this game. So you can see all the reflection in the background, but also yourself, your character. Because if we turn everything off, then everything disappears. The background, your own reflection, it's all gone. And in native 4K, you get about 40 FPS, so still playable. Let me turn it back on so you can see the difference. Look at that. That's just night and day. And if you want more FPS, you just put it on 1440p and then you get about 80 FPS. So if you combine that with VSync, then you have a very solid 60 FPS without any micro stutters, even with all the ray tracing on high. Guardians of the Galaxy, very underrated. I've really enjoyed it. So you can see I have been busy these few weeks. The resolution is in 4K, no upscaling or something like that. Everything is on high except for motion blur, lens flare, that's all off. Film grain, I hate that. So let's run a benchmark. And as you can see, we are getting between 80 and 90 FPS. So not bad at all. In native 4K without any upscaling or frame generation. And now we are going to run the same benchmark, but this time with ray tracing on. Now we do get a bit of a performance hit, as you can see, but it's still around 60 FPS, so very playable. But we do get more micro stutters, so if you're sensitive to that, just turn it off. We do get more accurate reflections and light scattering, but it's not very obvious in this benchmark. But in certain sections of the game, you get all the reflections of the lightning around you in metal floors or on the glass of your cockpit inside your spaceship. So it does add to the immersion. I really liked playing this game with ray tracing on. The thing is that the reflections in the base settings are so good that you can't really see a difference. Okay, now I'm very curious to see a comparison between the two. On the left is normal reflections and on the right is with ray tracing. Okay. Can't really see a difference right now. But there will come a puddle right now. Okay, let me pause it right here. You can clearly see a difference on the right side with ray tracing on. The reflection is sharper and way more accurate, but that's only in that puddle. In all the other puddles or glass, the reflection is almost as good as the ray tracing, so it's not really worth the performance hit that you get, and you also get a lot more stutters when you turn ray tracing on with this game. And here is Resident Evil Requiem in native 4K with ray tracing, and you get a solid 60 FPS. Now if you turn upscaling and frame generation on, you will get over 100 FPS. And now it's time for Alan Wake 2. Now this is a very heavy game to run. No matter which GPU or CPU you have, it doesn't matter. Especially when you turn everything on, ray tracing and such. And if you put pad tracing on, even in a 5090, it's almost unplayable in native 4K. So you will need to use some upscaling and frame generation to make it pretty and run fluid. But it's very hard to get a solid 60 FPS in native 4K with everything on. So this is native 4K on a 9070 XT, and you will get 30 FPS, which isn't really that bad in a game like this. It's not a fast-paced shooter, so it's more cinematic, and this game is just better to play as a story, because the gameplay itself isn't actually that fun. So this game will need a lot of tweaks in the graphical settings to make it more playable for you. It all depends on what you want. Do you want all the eye candy with ray tracing and pad tracing? Then you will also need some upscaling. But even if you use performance mode, so that's 4K upscaled from 1080p, it still looks very, very good. This game is just, yeah, very pretty. But pad tracing doesn't really work, if I have to be honest. On my 9070 XT, you will get a lot of a grain effect and white noise on windows and paintings or posters with glass in front of it. Can you imagine how this game would run on the Steam machine? I'm actually very curious about that. And this is the enhanced version of GTA 5, and it looks beautiful with ray tracing. And yeah, it's running in native 4K, and it runs very well, as you can see on my 9070 XT, with all the graphical settings on very high. Ultra is a bit hard, but you will still get 60 FPS. And that is in native 4K with ray tracing enabled. An amazing performance. And if you put upscaling on in quality mode and frame generation also, then you will get a solid 120 FPS. That's just amazing performance from the 9070 XT. Try hitting that on the Steam machine. And here's another heavy game, Cyberpunk 2077. Now, with ray tracing on and in native 4K without any upscaling, I think 45 FPS isn't that bad. But if you turn upscaling on and frame generation, you will see you get almost 100 FPS. So also an amazing performance for this kind of game. Now, Indiana Jones is also very heavy to run if you enable ray tracing and pad tracing. But to be honest, you don't really need that because it's already baked into the engine, and only in the first level you have rooms with a lot of glass. Most of the time you are in the desert or the jungle, so ray tracing isn't really needed there. And as you saw in native 4K, you will get 90 FPS with all the settings on high. And even if you turn the basic settings of ray tracing on, it already drops to 60, and then if you turn it up, it drops down to 40. And then when you put path tracing on, which the 9070 XT isn't really great at, it goes under 30 FPS. And you don't even have your own reflection in the glass or from all the environment around you, so it's really not worth it. So just play it in native 4K with ray tracing and path tracing off. And then finally we have Spider-Man 2. It's also in 4K, and everything is on high, including ray tracing, but I did need to use upscaling and frame generation in this game because 60 FPS is fine, but there's a lot of fast-paced action in this city, so I like to play at over 100 FPS. And if you put some of the settings down, you will get a solid 120 FPS, and it's just so much fun to swing around in the city at that FPS in 4K with all the ray tracing goodies. So I hope this video can convince you to buy a 9070 XT. I also never had any problems with drivers or whatsoever. It's a very solid card. Now, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
All of this just works.